Want to grow your business in downtown Florence? Meet the man who's helped making it happen. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning at the Fox 43 studio. We're focused on the Florence Downtown Development Corporation. We're visiting with its executive director, Roy Adams Jr. Good morning, Roy.
Good morning. Morning, Greg. How are you?
Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
On a Wednesday morning, 10 days before Christmas.
But I'm on.
Are you done with the shopping?
Well, I haven't really started. I got to be honest.
Oh, come on.
No, I haven't really started.
Mary's going to jump on you.
Well, yeah, this is true.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I think.
But I'll get it done. I'll get it done.
Yeah, you've got enough time now, 10 days.
Yes.
Well, you're here at the beach today, and of course, spending so much time in Florence is a good shopping day every day in Myrtle Beach.
This is very true. This is very true. But it's also good shopping in Florence.
I know. Excuse me. That's right. Not to take anything away from Florence. You know, just tomorrow we've got a small business owner coming in, Donna Tyson, who's promoting a new book she's written, The Red Book. Okay. And it's so fascinating to hear folks talk about their small businesses. And she had called me earlier in the week and was talking about her sales that day and saying it was the biggest sales day she'd ever had. And I'm sure you hear that all the time as you're down in downtown Florence now.
Well, I hear a little of that. You know, retailers are an interesting breed. They never make enough. Oh, wow. Because, you know, it's either feast or famine. They're either doing very well or they're doing very bad. Right. And so I hear the part where, well, it could be better.
You hear that phrase a lot. It could be better.
Could be better. Now, there's some people will say, well, I'm doing great. But a lot of them say it could be better.
Roy, Florence has been an exciting move for you?
Well, yeah, it has. It's very interesting. I retired a few years ago, and I cut down all the trees that I could cut down, and I trimmed all the bushes that I could trim, and I started getting on my wife's nerves, and the kids saw that. So, you know, they said, well, you know, Dad, we'll pay somebody to build you a computer.
Oh, man.
And I got on the internet and saw the position and said, well, you know, maybe I ought to come out of retirement for this, you know. Yeah, so it's been pretty exciting.
Now, had you all retired in the Baltimore area?
Yes.
You had?
Yeah.
That's right. I saw on there you'd spent quite a while in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm actually born and raised in Baltimore. And except for the time I was in the service and, you know, that sort of thing, that's where I did everything I did.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Baltimore's a great city. Don't you all have an amazing aquarium?
Aquarium, yes.
Aquarium
in the harbor, you know, so the whole thing is just really, really coming together. Right. Real nice downtown for Baltimore.
Have your kids stayed in Maryland?
Well, one did. You know, the daughter with the 2 grandchildren. Right. And the son is in Florida. Orlando,
the son's
Florida.
in Florida. So you all have stayed on the East Coast.
Yes.
I mean, everyone stayed on the East Coast. And I saw his Mercedes and Khalil, I believe.
Right.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And did you get to see that much?
No, not much. Not much. And in fact, we're getting ready to go back to Baltimore for a few days so I can catch up with the grandkids because they just, you know, they sprout up, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And if you miss a couple of months or 6 months, you know, it's a new kid.
That's right. That's right. They really do change that dramatically.
Yeah. So we're going back, you know.
That's exciting. I think there's a lot of flights both out of Florence and down here. I know Hooters Air flies direct into Baltimore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's who we're taking.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, wait a minute, it's Hooters Air or the other one? I'm trying to remember.
Spirit Air?
Spirit. No, it's Spirit.
That's a very popular one as well.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, it is amazing how airports have such a dramatic impact on communities. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, yeah,
and the
definitely.
Florence regional airport there has been so popular,
right.
and they pump that up so much.
Oh, yeah. Well, in fact, until they had the change, because it was quite expensive to fly out of Florence, really we were just driving back and forth to Baltimore. But it's much easier, you know, an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute flight. You know, and you're fresh. Oh, as opposed to a 7 or 8 hour drive, you know, and it gets maddening. So yeah, flights and airports do have a big impact on the communities that they're in.
Florence Downtown Development Corporation, and I think you all just set up the corporation recently.
Well, yeah, it's just 2 years old, so there's been a lot of water under the bridge. There's a lot of things that we've done as a corporation. There were a lot of things that happened before the corporation actually was formed. And one of the things that we have to pay real close attention to and give a lot of thanks for is really Frank Willis, the mayor.
Right.
Without his vision, there wouldn't be the master plan. Without his vision and leadership, there really wouldn't be a Florence Downtown Development Corporation.
Now, that's something he'd been thinking about for a long time.
Yes, yes, he has. And so, you know, that's what kind of moves a lot of things. Are your visionaries? You know, problem with the visionaries that they see things and people say, "Well, you're crazy. That'll never happen."
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? So I'm sure he suffered a lot of that. I know I heard a lot of that when I came to town. You know, it'll never work. You know, you need to go back to Baltimore. You know,
wow, Roy.
that sort of thing. You know, but it's working out. You know, it's the kind of thing where business owners that have suffered for any number of reasons, you know, sales declines in consecutive years, and then all of a sudden, you know, somebody says to them, you know, you can make money, and it's like, well, who are you? You know, you know. But now they're beginning to become believers because things are changing. The corporation's doing a lot of promotions. We did just finished on November the 6th. We just finished a pecan festival. Or pecan, however you want.
That's right. It's tough to know. And you got a lot of pecans there in Florence, don't
exactly.
you?
And that turned out, that was really a fabulous
Really?
Promotion. So with that and with other promotions and different things that we're doing, they're beginning to see, well, you know, maybe there is a chance for this to happen. And now some property owners are beginning to fix up their properties.
Wow.
Oh, heavens. You know, fixing up their property, you know, and we're not putting any violation notices. What they're starting to see is that there's an opportunity to make money.
Yeah.
And like in anything else, you know, you got to dress it up. You know, if you want to make some money, if you're a property owner, you want to lease, you know, you want to have the building filled for a considerable period of time, you got to dress it up.
You do.
You know, that sort of thing.
Roy, for a viewer may need to get off to school now or get off to work, it's about 7:10. What's the best number for someone to call to learn a little bit about Florence Downtown Development Corporation? Of course, we're going to be talking about micro enterprise programs in a couple of minutes, but if they can't stay here for the rest of the interview, what's the best number to call?
Well, 843-665-2047 or 2048.
Okay, those are for the Florence Downtown Development Corporation.
That's correct, and the Office of Downtown Development. I'm in a curious situation. I'm actually the Downtown Redevelopment Coordinator for the City of Florence and also the Executive Director of the Downtown Development Corporation. So you can reach, you know, you can reach me on both of those numbers.
Either one of those, 843-665-2047 or 2048.
That's correct.
That's invaluable. Yeah. Micro enterprise programs, an exciting thing, but I do want to ask you first, real quick, a little bit about your background. You said you grew up in Baltimore.
Right.
You mentioned the service.
Well, yeah, I was in the service 6.5 years. And actually, in terms of my family background, my grandfather was born in Sumter. My grandmother was born in Columbia, well, actually, Pillion.
Right.
And you know, that is essentially where my mother and 8 of her 13 siblings actually grew up.
They're
was in
Pillion,
South Carolina. And then they had a great migration, and my grandfather took everybody up to Baltimore, and that's eventually where I was born. So I have some roots here, a lot of family in Columbia, family in Pillion. And one of the things that I did was, when I got out of the service, I decided, well, I guess now I need to figure out what I need to do with the rest of my life,
yeah.
you know. And decided to go to college. Went to Morgan State University,
right.
And majored in sociology and planning there, and also got a master's from Johns Hopkins University.
I saw that, and you know it's for real when you say their name correctly. You know, so often you'll hear folks say John Hopkins as opposed to Johns Hopkins. So that's great.
Oh yeah, and that was an interesting experience.
What was that like? Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it was well. First of all, I was working, you know, full time.
Right.
And so I had to do it on a part-time basis in the evening. But it was still amazing because you had all these incredibly bright kids, because I majored in finance and economics. And so you had all these incredibly bright kids who could do the homework in class while they're participating.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh man, this was really, it was rough.
That would be,
It was,
yeah,
it was
part-time
really
or
rough.
full-time,
Yeah,
sure.
it was rough, but I got through it.
Now,
You know.
Roy, how'd you go from the service into a degree in sociology to getting into finance, and you said to finance and what? I mean, your master's
And economics.
in economics. And that's crazy. What
Well,
what was that avenue?
I-
So Sumter upbringing, yeah.
Yeah, I had some aspirations of becoming a social psychologist, and I also delved, sort of wanted to get involved in planning. And at that point, and I'm not going to reveal my age, but at that point,
we'll get it out of you.
in Morgan, they said, we're just setting up our planning program. The best thing for you to do, if you're serious about becoming a planner, is major in another discipline until we get it together. And if you want sociology, psychology, these are well-rounded disciplines. So that's what I did. Now, in the process of doing that and having student internships, I started looking at how decisions are made in terms of urban communities, and I saw that most of the people that I was dealing with in terms of decisions, other than the bureaucrats, were people who were in the business world. And I started getting excited about that and said, well, maybe if I want to be a mover and shaker, perhaps I need to go and get a business degree. And I found out about a Hopkins degree in administrative science, and that's how it happened.
Boy, it is fascinating how folks can spend a good while in the military, and I know you don't want to get your age, so I'm not going to ask you how long you were in the military, because it's fascinating how folks get out of high school, go to the military. We had a guest on the show recently, Mel Tiller, who's a professional speaker.
Okay.
And after 20 years in the Army, I believe, and he grew up in Northern Virginia, 20 years in the Army, he is transitioned into being a professional speaker. And of course, he really, at 38 or 39, he's young enough to start an entirely new career, much like yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Which is a fact. And now, is that something that you all encourage your kids to get into? Did they get in the military? Or
No. Son stayed far away. Well, actually, he kind of toyed with the idea.
Did he?
And then he just kind of dropped it. So, and the daughter, there was no question that she was not going in the military.
Yeah.
So they just stayed away from it.
Now, you said, was it your grandmother or grandfather down in Sumter? I mean,
my grandfather was
your
from
grandfather.
Sumter.
Was there any tie? I mean, was Shaw there at that?
It was there at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know our guest yesterday on the show said I think she grew up in Sumter. Had ties there. Her father was in the Air Force, or had a tie there at Shaw Air Force Base. It was fascinating when you think about inflection or instances like that, connections to South Carolina, something. Having grown up and spent most of your life in Baltimore, something pulling you down to the Palmetto State, it's a pretty big deal, particularly pulling you out of retirement.
Yeah, the prodigal son comes home. That's what I try to tell the family, I've completed the circle,
Yes.
And so it's truly exciting, just to get involved in terms of the South Carolina culture, the way of thinking, and particularly the downtown redevelopment.
Right. Now, you've been on board right at three years
3
now.
years.
Last month it was 3 years. You started in November of '01.
That's correct.
Let's get into the micro enterprise program and how that interrelates, or actually real quick, why don't you just break down the primary mission of the Downtown Development Corporation for Florence?
Okay. The primary mission is to economically redevelop downtown. That's it. But to do that, you want to try to be as inclusive as possible. One of the things that I saw when I first got here, and really was based on my experience, was the fact that you had a lot of what could be called marginal merchants or marginal looking merchants, meaning that they could have a good product. They could have good experience in terms of sales, but like when you look at the building that they're in, it didn't look inviting.
Right.
So automatically, that's kind of like a turnoff in terms of potential shoppers. So one of the first things that I did was talk to the city manager and the mayor and said, well, we probably need to do something in terms of direct assistance to these merchants. Many of them were graduates of what I call the underground economy. They were very adept at selling out of their car, very adept at flea markets. But when you go to an inline store, things change. You got to have a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement, and those sort of things. So I felt that probably one of the biggest ways that we could begin to be more inclusive and try to help the business owner who's already there was to create this program that could work with these very, very small merchants.
Now, this micro enterprise program is so reasonable. It's less than $50 a month. I mean, $500 a year. Or is it just a $500 one-time thing, or is it $500 a month? Excuse me.
No, it's a 500 one-time thing, and I kind of struggled with this because one of the things is that it's funded by community development block grant dollars. Those are federal dollars.
Right.
So I couldn't give it away.
Yeah, sure.
And so I had to charge them something. But then as I talked to consultants and based on my own experience, the amount that it would really cost to do what the consultants were going to do was astronomical.
Right.
And so I had to kind of split it up. So the $500 is really a one-time fee, even though we give them a break and say, well, you can start with 200. 200 will get you this thing done. Another 200, 250 will get this thing done. And then we'll go on and on. Now, what it does, the program itself, the consultant that we have is a professional consultant, it's a business owner and an accountant. The consultant, Lindsay Billings from Billings Business Services, I got to give her a little plug.
Sure, no.
Because she's doing a lot of work that she doesn't get paid for.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And so
she's got to be.
And so she does a management assessment. She will then do a business plan. She will then do a financial package, and she will come back once a quarter for a year.
Wow.
And so when you say to a merchant, well, I can't afford $500. Well, listen, understand that you're getting thousands of dollars worth of services for just $500. Now, it's true the Development Corporation in the city pays $900. You know, total price tag is $1,400. But even that is far below what it would cost to get that done on market prices. You know? So, you know, this program is an engagement program. It's one-on-one technical assistance in store, which is unheard of. That's very labor intensive. You have to go in the store to help the merchant, and you know you got to work through a lot of stuff. When you go in a merchant store, you know there's a lot of stuff that you have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of time that's spent. I do a lot of front-end work, but the bottom line is that this is what our linchpin. This is the basis that we're going to use to try to work with retaining the businesses that are already there.
Well, the great thing and the exciting thing, more than likely for the business owners in the Florence area, is knowing your track record. To think about you implementing and managing a group, a privately funded group there in downtown Baltimore to help really grow that downtown area and to make a huge difference down there. I think I saw bringing together 9 separate districts, pushing more than almost 3 million square feet of...
That's right.
I mean, that's incredible commitment there. So, I mean, have folks been able to find out about your expertise and really
Well, they do and they don't. But, I mean, you know, retailers are an interesting breed. It boils down to what can you do for me today? Right. All of that's fine, what you did yesterday.
Congratulations, Leroy, but... Yeah.
right. What can you do for me today? So, yeah, they've heard it, and some of them have actually experienced it. But the bottom line is, when are you going to make the changes that need to be made? And I try to tell them that it takes time. You know, it takes time.
I think the great thing, Roy, is it's not free. I mean, I think if folks were getting those services free, they'd take it like many things they get for free.
Yeah.
Just a cup of coffee, potentially, or a couple other things they may get. But I mean, there's a real need to make a little commitment there, particularly when you said it's costing $1,400. Y'all are getting it for $1,400 is a steal deal.
Yeah.
And so this $500, and that same phone number folks can use to find out about it. But now this is dedicated to Florence downtown development.
That's true.
Where does the downtown begin? Where does it end? Do those folks know? And how about for our viewers who may be interested in getting into business in downtown Florence? Is the best number to call the 843-665-2047 or 2048?
Either one of those.
Okay.
Either one of those. But downtown is, just to kind of talk about it a second, is Lucas Street on the north, Cherokee Street on the south, Church on the east, and McQueen on the west, and we've expanded it recently. We still got to get it approved by the City Council and the Planning Commission. But you have roughly 70-plus square blocks. That's a huge
70
square blocks, not blocks, square blocks. And so that's a huge area, and you have at least probably 2 to 3 primary trade areas that are involved in that. So you have a lot of opportunities for things to fall apart.
Right.
But we're trying to hold it together.
Keep it together. Well, that's very important. And for viewers who may be interested in getting into business and thinking this, And share real quick the difference between a square block and a block for a viewer who may not be familiar. Let's say a viewer here, a viewer there in Florence who may not be familiar. What's the significance of that?
Well, a block, a linear block is just a block face, just from one street to another. Okay? A square block is 4 blocks. Contiguous blocks. So they touch one another. So that's a much, much larger area.
So we're talking about 280 blocks. I mean, you know,
exactly.
70.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, that's a big deal.
That's
and
a
that's
huge
good
deal.
city terminology that I wasn't familiar with. Thank you for explaining that. For those, I mean, so there's a heck of a lot of business opportunities, even as you say, folks are cleaning up continuing to spruce up their buildings.
Yes. And so, yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunity for businesses that are there to get better, and that's the micro enterprise program. There are opportunities, there are market gaps, there are gaps in goods and services that folks need to kind of take a look at and begin to start opening their shops. In fact, we have an interesting shop that's opening very soon. Oscar James, a local guy, has come back. He's a hairdresser to a lot of the stars, Halle Berry and Vanessa Williams and all that sort of thing. The point is that what he did is he totally rehabbed the building, and now he's putting a salon and spa upscale in downtown. So things are beginning to start to happen in terms of folks seeing that there are opportunities. They need to put out some money in order to make the opportunity real, and they need to make sure that they do the right thing in terms of making the area presentable, and so that people will want to come back.
Big piece in the Florence Morning News a couple of weeks ago, revitalization in downtown Florence. How are you best? We've got less than 5 minutes, Roy. Time is flying. How do you best get the word out? What are the vehicles, the best groups to get out to see, to support? And can a viewer help? I mean, is there anything that a viewer could do to get involved if they don't work in downtown Florence, or they don't have an interest in a business, or they're retired of the area? Is there something they can do to help revitalize the area?
Oh, absolutely. There's 2 things. We have 2 organizations. We have the Downtown Development Corporation.
Right.
They certainly can become part of our committees. Good. We have 4 standing committees, and 3 that we really work with are design, economic restructuring, and also promotions and advertising. So they can get involved in that by calling that number, 665-2047 or 2048. We also have a Merchants Association. Steve Powers from SW Printing is pulling together the Merchants Association, and they're going to be doing retail promotions. You can get to Steve through me, or you can call 662-5207. Okay. 662-5207 would be Steve's number. Right. So they can get involved organizationally. There are garden clubs that want to get involved. Right. We'll be working with some of the garden clubs in terms of planting flowers and taking care of flowers.
Great.
There's all kinds of ways that people can do a little bit, and it all will come together in terms of a bigger picture. You
and Mayor Willis are holding hands now. You all are working. I mean, you're really taking his original idea for so long, and I'm sure there are a heck of a lot of other folks supporting him. Are there some other aspects of his long-term vision, and the council and other groups, county council, city council, other folks have really wrapped around to support, that are some other avenues that y'all are heading in as this continues to grow?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the big things that's beginning to happen is the city and the county are beginning to work more together.
Right.
The Planning Commission is beginning to work more with the city, and so we have a real sort of a cooperative. I wouldn't call it a love-in, because I'm dating myself when I say love-in.
We'll get that H out of it. We'll get it out of it.
We did say that. That's true. But the point is that people are beginning to see that working together works.
Right.
Not working together doesn't work. Right. And so they're beginning to get involved through all of these avenues.
Creating a business plan, preparing a loan package, very important, and managing more profitably. As you said, so many of these folks know how to deal out of a flea market, out of the back of their car, but actually getting in a shop and having to think through aspects. There's a heck of a lot that can be accomplished there.
Oh, absolutely. And the other part is, not only that, when we look at downtown, we've got to create a scenario where people want to invest. And so one of the things that we're doing, especially through our chairman, George Bailey, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't mention Chairman George. He doesn't like that, but I mean Chairman George. But anyway, the point is that working with them, a lot of things are happening in terms of how you keep the buildings looking good. How do you trim the trees? You know, the little things, when you add them up, they really work. And so we want to let people know that your investment will be protected if you invest in Florence. So please come and invest in Florence.
Those are great words. Thanks so much for being with us this morning, Roy.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Okay, thanks.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Roy Adams Jr. coming up next. We didn't get to talk about his national certification as a Main Street manager. We got to hear him talk a little bit about all that experience in Baltimore. Think about being in a classroom. A lot of other folks around. He's doing it part-time, getting a master's in finance and economics. How crazy. I mean, you know what? It's just nuts. It's a heck of a lot of work. It's to make that commitment to get stronger, to get better, to spend the 25 years in downtown economic development, helping small businesses grow. You heard him use 3 key words. Working together works. You also heard him say not working together doesn't work. There's important things to do. It's a simple phone number, 843-665-2047 or 2048. Give him a call. See if there's a way you can get involved. You heard him talk about some of the standing committees. There's a lot of folks who want to be involved in downtown development and redevelopment. Staying in class, staying focused is important, but you got to get out and get in the street and utilize those aspects of the classroom. Give them a call, 843-665-2047 or 2048. Roy Adams.